St. Timothy's, and I'm here with our Vicar, Canon Lee Stafki, and we are going to be talking a little bit today about our Requiem Mass that we're hosting this evening at 7 p.m. First of all, thank you for hanging out with us live today.
Absolutely.
Very good. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what a Requiem Mass is?
Oh, sure. So a Requiem Mass is, as most of you have probably at some point attended a funeral in a church. So in the Anglo-Catholic tradition, we have Requiem Masses, and it's a Mass for the dead. Now, that varies a little bit from the burial of the dead, because in a Requiem Mass, we're not always doing that with a burial. So I'll give you an example. On All Souls Day, the 2nd of November each day, which is the Feast of All Souls, we remember all the faithful departed who have moved into the next life, who have moved into their rest and eventually into heaven. And so we do a Requiem Mass. That's the format that we use for the Mass of the dead. And that's what really Requiem Mass means, is the Mass of the dead. So it's not always associated with an actual burial. Sometimes it's just associated with in remembrance of somebody who has passed into the next life.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Can you tell us a little bit about why we're hosting one for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth?
That is a great question, and I've had that question a number of times over the last week. So as all of you know, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, whose portrait we have here, obviously a much younger portrait of Queen Elizabeth, passed into the next life last week. So why is that important? Well, so we're an Anglican Church, and Queen Elizabeth has a special seat at the head of the Anglican Church. Some people may, or if you're not an Anglican, you may not know this. If you are an Anglican, you may also not know this, right? So the Queen, the Patriarch, or in this case, the Monarch, of the head of England, also sits as the supreme governor over the Anglican Church. Now, where did this start? I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to answer myself here. So where did this start? Back in 1533, King Henry VIII, who the whole of England at that time was in fact Catholic, Roman Catholic. In fact, most of the world was Roman Catholic. At that point, the only other, I hesitate to use the word denomination because it's more like a communion, was the Orthodox Church. And so King Henry VIII was seeking a divorce from his then wife, Catherine of Aragon, who was of Spain and royalty in Spain. She was the niece of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel, who we know sent Columbus to the United States, or to America. And so, there's a lot of American history mixed in here, too. But he was seeking, after, I think, 15 years, to divorce Aragon, Queen Catherine of Aragon, because she wasn't able to provide him with an heir, a son. Now, we know today that that's not actually listed Queen Catherine's fault, but probably King Henry's thing, right? But King Henry sought a divorce from Pope Pius X, and this went on for years. And Queen Catherine had been his brother, King Henry VIII's brother's wife. And he was alleging that the marriage was never proper, and thus seeking a divorce, which was an unheard of thing back there. And Pope Pius X basically said, no, we're not doing that. And after years and years of debate back and forth, King Henry VIII decided that he was going to split from the Roman Catholic Church and not come under the authority of Pope Pius X anymore. So he split, and thus was born the Church in England. That went on for a number of years. Obviously, most people are familiar with King Henry VIII's story because he married first Anne Boleyn and a whole series of wives, some of which he beheaded, including Anne Boleyn. But out of that first marriage with Catherine came the person we would know as Queen Elizabeth I. And Edward took the throne as a boy king. He died young. Queen Mary, who was his first child, took over after that. We know her as Bloody Mary because she tried to purge England of all of the Protestants, the Lutherans, anybody who wasn't Roman Catholic. And then came to the throne Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth I. We have Queen Elizabeth II here. So, as an act, let's see here. In 1553, the Parliament, which actually had been created by Henry VIII, declared the Queen to be the supreme governor of the Church of England. This is the difference between Church in England and the Church of England. King Henry VIII never saw himself as not Catholic. He just removed himself under the authority of the Pope. This was the first real significance Church of England, and thus it was born. And so every monarch after that has been and takes an oath to be the supreme governor of England. And so Queen Elizabeth II is no different. So we're really celebrating the life and memorializing the life of Queen Elizabeth II, and that sort of remembering the dead as the head of the Church of England, which we're part of. The Anglican Church in North America is part of the Anglican Church worldwide, the Anglican Communion, as it's also sometimes called. And so that's why we're doing the Requiem Mass for her.
Okay. Can I ask one last question?
Sure.
So, if people are coming tonight, what can they expect for the service this evening?
So it'll be a solemn Mass. I will be the celebrant. This will be exactly what I'm wearing this evening. And so we will celebrate a Mass, but it is very focused on remembering Queen Elizabeth and offering prayers for her. We are often referred to as the Church Militant, those of us who are alive. They are referred to as the Church Triumphant. And so we're remembering her. Father Ken Dean for Christ the King in Fort Worth will be our preacher, and Father Andy Powell will be an assisting priest with me as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We hope you guys will come this evening, 7 p.m., and we'll see you there at St. Timothy Anglican Church. Our address is 4301 Meadowbrook Drive in Fort Worth, Texas. That is 76103. You can also go to our website, check out the events that we have coming